Morning show with Tori and Kyle. However, it is just me, but now being graced by the presence of wonderfulness, Richard Szerman.
The presence of wonderfulness. Well, I'm getting that put on business cards. Thank you.
I know it's a little long.
No, it's good for me, though. I like it. Everything with me is a little long. That's fine.
But Richard Szerman from Alta Realty is here to teach us once again things we do not know, things we need to know. So welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome to Wednesday.
Thank you.
There was a little incident that the late night talk show host had a field day with.
Yeah.
Happened the other day. You want to explain?
Well, I like to prep before I come in, and I had all sorts of facts and figures for you. But rather than boring you with that, there is something that happened yesterday that is so exemplifies the current condition of the housing market and the leadership or lack thereof in it that this is just a better story. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, a guy named Ben Carson, who people have probably heard of. He was a failed presidential candidate. Near as anybody can tell, his only qualification for this post is that he once lived in a house. I don't know that that is sufficient to run the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as housing is in the title. But wasn't up to me. So Ben Carson was sitting in front of Congress yesterday, and he was being questioned by a congresswoman named Katie Porter, who is very knowledgeable on the topic. She's a university professor. She literally wrote the book on mortgages and amortization rates, how these things work. She's really quite the advocate. We pay attention when she talks. She does a lot of good work. But anyway, she asked him an extraordinarily simple question, which is, what does REO stand for?
Well, she had said, here's, if I may.
Yeah.
What is REO?
And he thought it was a cookie. He thought it was the Oreo cookie.
But why, if you would just take just a nanosecond, why would a member of Congress be asking you about a cookie? Like, why would he even say that?
Well, he appeared to know more about cookies than he does about real estate, which is terrifying given the job that he occupies and has for the last 3 years.
So what is REO?
REO stands, I'm sure your listeners all know this, it stands for real estate owned, otherwise referred to as foreclosure. REO is foreclosure. The amount of foreclosures is a very important number. It is something that comes out from HUD. There are other areas that track it as well, other agencies. But housing is in their title. This is kind of important. And there's this bizarre mixture of arrogance and ignorance that seems to be what our leadership runs on these days. And it's really embarrassing, and that's funny, and that's great for the late night talk show hosts. The problem here is, if you own a house, or if you ever want to own a house, this affects you. There are real world consequences, and the particularly just rage-making, crazy-making part of this is after this happens, he then says publicly he is sending her Oreos and as a thank you for the congressional testimony that she got out of him. I don't understand that you could screw up that badly, that publicly, then double down on that kind of a mistake like it wasn't a mistake, and you still keep your job. If I did something that foolish, I'd be out of work very quickly. So would you. So would any of your listeners. But apparently, for the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, this sort of unbelievably embarrassing behavior that just illustrates, again, arrogance and ignorance, doesn't seem to have an effect. It's astonishing to me. But there is an effect to you, and I'll tell you about a story, another one right now, and this is a direct correlation to this. We have a client right now who... she works for a large biotech firm. They relocated to San Diego. She's been with this company for about 15 years. She cannot communicate from here to San Diego. That's 4 hours each way. It's a bit much. So she took her entire family, including her 99-year-old grandmother. She's sole support for 5 adults. And she moved them all to San Diego. Now, as this was happening, we approached the bank and we said, this is Bank of America, and we said, hey, can we do a modification on this loan? If we bring her interest rate down a little bit, then she can afford to rent the house. It'd still be negative, but at least it'd make it, make some sense. And they said no. And she had a 7% interest rate, so it seemed like there was some room there, but they said no. So we went back and forth with this for over a year. She's trying to keep the house. There's really no way to do it. And again, she had to move to San Diego, so she bought a house in San Diego, which she can do. There's nothing illegal or wrong about that. And we kept trying to negotiate with B of A, and they kept saying no. So finally, B of A said to the client, do a short sale. Since we can't do a loan modification, since we can't do anything else, since you can't rent the house for the amount of negative, and spending $1,000, $1,200 a month in negative is ridiculous. No one's going to spend $24,000 a year just to keep a house like this. They told her in writing to do a short sale. So we did. And things were going on swimmingly. And then B of A came back and said, yeah, we're declining this file because quality control. We said, what? What does that mean?
Yeah, what is that?
Explain
what are you
that.
talking about?
Yeah, well, we don't feel comfortable with it. Well, not that your comfort level should be relevant to doing a short sale, but we would like you to be comfortable. So what can we do to increase your comfort level? What exactly is wrong? Yeah, they're not going to tell us. Now, that is a massive violation of our clients' rights, but because there is no oversight, and where oversight should be coming from, thinks that REO is a cookie, and the CFPB has essentially been shut down by a lot of the same characters. They're ineffective at the moment, unfortunately. Keep Your Home California, its charter has expired. They've shut down. And, God bless our politicians here locally. They've got bigger fish to fry right now, which is very unfortunate for homeowners, but they got other stuff going on. I get that. I would like to make a little more time for this as well, but they have full agendas, because we've been down that road and continue to. But anyway, because there is no oversight, these guys, can do whatever the heck they want. So this leaves my client in a position where the only way she can find out, potentially, why they wish to ruin her credit, turn her down for this, create all the tax consequences and all the other problems that come with a foreclosure instead of a short sale, which, again, they asked her to do, is to sue them. My client is going to have to incur significant legal cost just to find out why the bank is turning her down for something they asked her to do to begin with. It's ridiculous. And
is this all because there are no consequences?
None.
So there's no consequence. No. They can just willy-nilly say whatever.
Well, imagine, I draw this parallel all the time. Imagine if in any major city, the police just said, you know what, we've had it with this part of the city. This 3-block by 3-block radius, we're out, we're not doing it anymore, we're done with our jobs. If that were to happen, if somebody were to advocate their responsibility like that, imagine what the center of any large city would look like if there was suddenly no oversight of any sort in whatever area was designated. It would be very bad very quickly. This is the same kind of nonsense we saw in the banking industry leading up to the 2008 crash. And that is the exact same attitude we're getting now. And this isn't just B of A. B of A is the current offender on this file. But we see this across the board. The servicers act this way, the banks act this way, and because there is no oversight, even by their own shareholders, it would seem, because if you did something this incompetent, I'm very sure the station would wish you good day. And if I did something this foolish, I'd be sent packing as well, and rightly so. Thank you for coming in. Your services are no longer required.
Good day, yeah.
But it's just ridiculous because the banks are so profitable to begin with that when they make these mammoth screw-ups, because they're going to, in addition to this being bad for my client, Bank of America is going to lose a lot more money on this file if they foreclose than if they do a short sale. They're going to lose about an additional $100,000.
What is their ultimate goal here? In this, specifically this particular file, what is their ultimate goal here? Because it seems like you and your client are being reasonable. You're asking questions. You're doing what they say to do.
Yeah.
So what do we do as a consumer? What do we do?
Yeah, you make as much noise as you possibly can. You comment on articles at the local radio station. You talk to your local politicians. You have to bring this to bear. The problem is when people have a problem. If you have a health issue, even you're liable to tell your neighbors and your loved ones and things, hey, I got this going on. But when you have an economic problem, especially something like you're not making mortgage payments or anything like that, we don't tell each other.
Sure.
The 5 words you're never allowed to state in the English language, the one sentence that is more devastating to you publicly than any other, I don't have the money.
Right.
And if you say that out loud, it's funny. I have an aunt who used to, whenever she would say bad things about people's health conditions, would whisper. Like she would say, so-and-so just got cancer. She'd whisper like that. Like if you don't say it out loud, it's not as bad. But oh my God, she would have to write down. If she had to say I don't have the money, she would actually have to write it down. She'd have to go that silent about it, like it was a super secret thing.
You don't want to give it legs. You don't want to give it legs.
And that's how they get away with it. We don't talk to each other. If this doesn't affect you today, you're not going to reach out about it. You're not going to comment. You're not going to talk to a politician. You're not going to do these things. So that leaves it, it's a one-off thing. And as long as that, we have power en masse. We do not have power individually. No individual has the power to stand up to Bank of America on their own.
No.
Now, you muster a group of people, you bring in some people who know what they're talking about, and now you got a shot. Now at least you can try to make something happen. But it's only if we band together in groups that these things get done. And that's really what we need to do, because another crash is coming. By the middle of 2020, it is going to be problematic. It would have started already had it not been for the Fed freezing the interest rate. And what happens with interest rates, just very, very briefly, is when the interest rate goes up as a hedge against inflation. Interest rates go up, borrowing money becomes more expensive, less money gets spent on X, Y, and Z. Often mostly investments, not consumer goods, but mostly investments. Now, when the interest rate is held, and it's fine for my industry that the interest rate is held, it stopped the slide in real estate prices that was developing. So that's a good thing overall. But the problem is that means inflation is now allowed to get going. And when you have to adjust the interest rate to catch up to that, it's going to be worse. So instead of the interest rate just going up a little bit or slowly over time, it'll be something much more radical. oil, and that's what I'm worried about. Watch the price of gas over the summer. Now, it always goes up in Los Angeles over the summer, but watch what it does this summer. Despite the fact oil is trading at some of its lowest levels in history, particularly foreign oil, lowest levels in history, yet the price at the pump is still going up. Those two things should not coexist simultaneously. That indicates a bubble, and bubbles pop. And then I'm just use gasoline as a basic exemplar of this. You can see the same thing in the cost of milk or anything else, milk, bread, whatever. Consumer costs are going to start going up steadily, and they will get to the point where the interest rate must be raised to catch up. And when that happens, it's going to be bad. It's going to make what would have been a bad situation much worse. And you couple that with the bank's behavior, and again, this bizarre mixture of just arrogance and ignorance, that it's the only thing I can call it, that we're getting in both the government side and on the banking side with no consequence for it whatsoever, and that's going to go real bad.
Real bad, real fast.
If you have a mortgage, you need to know this stuff. If you have a mortgage in trouble, please give us a call. We can help you with this stuff, but call us as soon as you can. The sooner we get started, the better.
You're the squeakiest wheel I've ever known.
I squeak very loudly.
You are, and I need a phone number, though.
661-714-1400. You can protect yourself from this stuff, but you got to call us. 661-714-1400.
Richard Szerman, Alta Realty, always a pleasure. I learn something every time you come in.
Thanks for having me on.